Hi, morning team.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I miss you guys. It's so
We
good to
miss you.
see you.
This was a great idea, Matt.
It sure
So
was.
the idea was to try and recreate what you see about 5 times a day, which is a bunch of people in boxes trying to have an awkward conversation.
Oh, that should go well.
May 5th. Let's see who we have here. David Murphy, Tamala Edwards. Oh, is that Karen Rogers right there?
Yeah.
It is.
Hi, everybody. I had 3 cups of coffee trying to wake up today, and now
Oh, no.
you're all in for it because it's
Karen,
hitting me.
can you pass it to me? Can you
Here you go.
My hand will not go through the threshold.
Oh, wait. Yeah, you need
That's
here.
coming over.
No, here.
You ready? Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Thank you very much there, Karen. It was pretty cute, Matt.
Well, it's really funny that we're doing this because we should tell people behind the scenes we've had to do some choreography so we know who goes when without stepping all over each other.
And we keep messing it up.
Oh, yeah. It's been fun messing it up, though.
Well, let's describe it. So what we try to do is minimize these weird, awkward pauses while we're on the air. And so at 4, 5, and 6, Tam talks, and then David. And then at 4:30, 5:30, and 6:30, Karen talks, and then David. But when Karen's off, Matt, see, now I'm already confused.
How about a hand for teachers, David, Tam, and Karen?
Yes.
What do you say?
Absolutely.
Yep. I mean, that goes for all time, but especially now.
Yeah.
All right, so let's.
As we've all learned from doing it, it's hard to do.
We've had to get used to being apart. And at first we were stepping all over each other. So we literally had to choreograph who goes when. Like you'll notice that I talk at 4, 5, and 6. There you go. And Karen talks first at 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. But I was, David said something on air the other day. Yes, there you go. David said something on air the other day that was really interesting to me, which is he said, even though he and Matt are both in the studio, it still feels different because he was so used to coming to the desk and we could look each other in the eye and
Yeah.
my hand.
And his shoulder doesn't hurt anymore.
That's
When you
right.
like physically.
I'm not getting
It's,
beat up at all in my shoulder.
I know.
I'm sure I'm getting air punches from South Jersey.
It's really hard not to talk to each other. We kind of talk on top of each other just a little bit on a regular basis, or maybe it's just me talking so much and you can't make me stop, but it's a little extra hard. Today, I completely forgot what time it was. My dog, as some of the great viewers have suggested, we put her to sleep with a little ticking alarm clock, but that's the old-fashioned clock I use here to tell me what time it is. So I never know what time it is in the morning. I have to try to figure it out, turn on my phone, and then decide if I should start talking. It's very smooth.
Well, David, describe to them what it's like for you and I in the studio.
Well, it's just quiet. It's way more quiet than it usually is. And Matt, you and I are probably 20 feet away or 25. I mean, we joke around a little bit and stuff like we used to, but it's not the same with only like 4 people in the studio versus 6. And of course, the women on our team are they've always got something to add to the conversation that's fun and stuff. So, and I was saying earlier too that just when you walk, just when you walk in, I mean, you've got pretty people here, but you walk down the hallway and everybody's sort of on the other side of the room, and you don't really say anything to them. And even for my noon show, I email the producers my forecast. I don't really talk to them anymore. And then it's just sort of a lonely hallway into the studio. And then, like I said, there's only 4 of us. So it's different that way,
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I get in, it's, 3:55 is usually when I walk into the studio, and it's just me and 2 members of our crew, Roy and, today was Richard. And it just feels very, like when you walk in and you guys are there, we catch up, if it's Monday, how was your weekend? It just feels like there's just a vapidness of energy, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Matt, we haven't fought in months. We used to fight every morning before 4 a.m.
Oh, well,
do
just to keep each other awake.
But I think one of the things you're getting at, Matt, is people often wonder about the magic behind the show, and really it's us with each other. Both like when Matt really laughs, like he's about to lose it. And
I love it.
That's really funny. Or, some of the
And it's always for the dumbest thing.
but also, we talk about stuff, like we really talk about stuff in our lives, and we talk about stuff
Yeah.
in the news, and we talk to Roy, we talk to Richard, we talk to each other, and it's like either we're all laughing together, or David will come over and give his opinion about something, or Karen will give her thoughts. And I really miss that energy. I really miss what it is essentially to be with you guys, and to be in that kind of, these are my peeps. These are the people I talk about things with. And you can't really do that remotely.
When this started 6 weeks ago, how long did you guys think it was going to go on like this?
Oh,
2 weeks, maybe. I really didn't. I didn't contemplate this long. I didn't think, it was frankly a little frightening for me to think about it. Every time I started to think about, could this happen? I just sort of turned my brain into a different direction. It was hard to deal with, but I never thought it would be this long.
With me, I sort of apply what I do with everything, where there's some type of event that's coming up later on, let's say this year or next year. I just don't think about it, And so when we started this, remote anchoring, I just said, well, it could last a month. It might be 3 years. I'm just not going to worry about it. Going to try to get through the day, and we're just going to try and put the best show on that we can.
Yeah. Well,
how about
I
you, Dave?
Sort of keep imagining an end game. And Matt Bellman and Karen and I were talking about this maybe a month or more ago. And Matt said, I think Memorial Day. And at the time, I remember thinking that was reasonable. But in the last few weeks, with the red, green, and yellow stages, I mean, I've said to Matt in the studios, some of the conversations you guys miss at home, that I could see this going, for us, social distancing, going through the summer.
Yeah, I'd have to say I'm with David on that one. And I think it's been an evolution of thought. I mean, first of all, it was hard for me to wrap my mind around, are they really going to set a studio up in my house? Like, that's not happening.
Right, exactly.
And it felt like it happened overnight, because at first they're doing it, they're not doing it. No, we are doing it. And then it happens, and it's a reality, and you go, okay. And at first it was kind of fun. It's like going to camp. And then it dawns on you, like, wait a second, this is the way it is for a while. And the other aspects of it set in, like I talked about this in another forum, that as much as you love the people in your life, you realize how much other contact is important, even if it's random, the person behind you in the coffee shop. And it starts to hit you that you're missing that. And once that set in, and then your mind goes to, how long could this be? And you start reading the information. I'm kind of with David on this one. I don't see how we do some of the things, like Karen and I share a dressing room. I don't see how we do that. I don't know. And this is working. So why not do it? So yeah, David, I think through the summer,
I'm more with Matt. I can't even think about it. That's just too far to even, it's upsetting to think about for me. I have a daughter in college, as you know, and I got a mask in early March. Maybe I was ordering a mask, and I thought, worst case scenario, she might need a mask in college. Never occurred to me, worst case scenario, she'd leave college and not know when she's ever going back. I mean, things seem to change on a dime. It's almost not worth looking ahead, because I think so many events are going to change, and you'll feel differently about them than you imagined you would. I'll feel differently about hugging people and shaking hands than I ever imagined I would.
I agree with you. And boy, it took me weeks to stop that gesture of wanting to, like, be close to someone. And and I mean, there in the past, when viewers say something nice to me, I'll be like, come here, that's hug worthy, and I and that's just part of kind of who I am, and how people interact, but not anymore. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be different for a long time, but I'm getting more used to all of that now, and we all kind of
I was listening to a podcast, and they were, like everyone else, are talking about all of this, and they're trying to really figure out where we're going with all these adaptations that we've put in place to deal with the situation we're in. And the person said that it's almost like we're in the future, and it's now. Like, we've always talked about trying to do remote learning. Well, now we're doing it. We've always talked about having more people work at home and try and clear up the roads a little bit more and use less fuel. We're doing that now. And so I was just kind of wondering, with all of you, what are some of the things that are going to help us once this is over, sort of make our lives better, that we're kind of doing right now?
More people working at home, I think, is not a bad idea. It would reduce pollution and congestion.
Yeah, I've learned a lot of new skills that I didn't think. I've never used Zoom before this, right? I'm using this. I've been shooting packages myself and interviews and setting up, cameras in all kinds of strange places, and started doing a little rough editing too. So, I've learned a lot of skills that I'll take with me and I think are good skills to learn. And some of that for sure will be taking with me.
I got an odd one. I'm going to say the thing that we'll get out of this is each other.
Hmm.
Like you, Matt, I was listening to a podcast, the one I sent to you from the New York Times, the science reporter talking about it. And he cast back to his parents who lived through World War II and some other hard times. And they said that when they came out on the other end, there was a different sense of society caring about each other and wanting even the least of us to be okay, and a sense of how do we move forward together. And it's tough in the news because a lot of what we see is the divide, different arguments, different points of view, people screaming at each other. But I'd like to think when we get out of this, we'll value each other a little bit more, and we'll really in some way come together to figure out a way forward, that this will be our generation's call to action, like previous generations. We came out of a hard time, and let's head to a better future together.
I hope you're right. I worry that not everyone feels that way, but I really hope you're right. I hope this means that people look after each other more. I mean, certainly I'm feeling that, hopefulness that you have. I guess I'm just not sure that's going to happen, but from your
Yeah.
lips to God's ears, they say.
I hope so too, though, Tam, and I think it's a nice sentiment to put out there anyway. It's a big
Yeah.
world, a lot of people out there, a lot of different uh, points of view and different angles you're coming from when it comes to life. But I hope people do take it to heart, because you know, it does make you think a little bit more. And, I also know some people. I just got a call from a friend last night whose sister died of COVID-19. You know, I mean, it is tragic, and sometimes tragedy does get people to swell together and maybe think differently or more caringly about each other. So hopefully that does work out.
And I guess to maybe answer my own question, I think it really does put all the problems that you thought you had in early 2020 and 2019 and 2018 into
Yeah.
perspective. And
No, that's true.
this is I think going to harden people's resolve in many ways, and hopefully appreciate life a little bit more and appreciate those good times. Because
It's like
honestly, this stinks. It sucks.
yeah.
Yeah.
I hate this. Everyone does.
It's like the universe said, "Oh, you think that's a problem? Hold my beer."
Yeah.
But I did
That's
want
so
to ask
true.
you guys a question as people in the news, because how do you deal with the fact that this is constant? Like, we've never had an event where it is the news every day for week after week, and where the information feels like it's constantly changing. And I've seen some people reach out to me on that one, that, every week what we understand and what you should do, some level of it seems to be evolving. How are you
I
guys
just, I
processing
feel
it?
like evolving is the right word. Like it's changing but every day you want to learn something different. You want to look at it in a different way, or new information comes to light. And that seems to be the thing. People still, obviously, that's what they're focused on, because it's so basic. How do we stay safe? How do we help each other stay safe and healthy?
And what are the plans for the future?
Mm-hmm.
I find it interesting that even just as a viewer, taking myself out of the job for a moment, that every day I'm interested in what's going on, versus a political campaign or something like that, which would be another big ongoing story where
True.
sometimes you just tune out, but this thing, it's like, no, I really want to know what all the latest stuff is. Well, based on all the people who have been tuning into Action News over the last 6 weeks since this thing's really come to a head, I think I'm not alone.
Were you scared in that those series of days in March? And I'm trying to think of, maybe it was around like the 24th or 25th, when things happened extremely rapidly. Sports leagues were canceling, schools were closing, people were being told to go indoors. Were you scared?
I'll start since no one wants to jump in, but I'm a worrier by nature, as you know. I can worry like nobody. So yeah, I started to get really nervous at that point. I think for me, though, the pivotal thing was that I couldn't get food at one point. we aren't leaving at all. We still don't go to grocery stores. We haven't done that in forever. We're just ordering in everything. And, I have a daughter, I mentioned, is type 1 diabetic. So being a little extra careful since she's in the high risk group. And for a while, I tried Instacart pickup, Instacart delivery, shop right at home, Amazon grocery pantry. Like I couldn't get anything delivered within several weeks. And I actually just kept cold calling different places, and eventually more things evolved, but maybe also because I live in, not Philadelphia, but in a more rural area in South Jersey where it was just a little trickier. And for me, that was a little bit of a panic moment. I started ordering for food months out, and then it all came at the same time. It took me a month to get, some things, but now I'm all set up and everything is fine. But it took me making a lot of calls and a few days of work. And
Oh,
so for me, that was scary. And we have 6 people in the house, so we're going out of things left and right.
I think for me, it was just, especially in the beginning, a respiratory disease. You can ask people to not do a lot of things, but they got to breathe.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know exactly what it meant. And it's like, well, are we in bird box territory? Like, those crazy movies you watch where just out of the blue, everything around you just starts changing. And I think there was a week where you could see that everybody was just kind of like, and then in a weird way, it normalized. Like, people just finally realized, okay, I got to take my mask. I got to stay away from people. Here we try to limit the grocery store visits to once a week. Rocco's out right now, and he just sent me a text. Make sure the washing machine is open because he's going to strip down and put everything in the washing machine and go upstairs and take a shower. But all the things that I used to say I thought I had to do, you don't really have to do, not more than once a week. But yeah, that first week was scary because I think, you just imagine this blob of air chasing you down the street, even if you were doing everything right to stay away from it.
I don't know that I was ever scared in the beginning. I just was paying very close attention to what, the health organizations were saying. And then, of course, we started carrying the news conference from the PA health department and the county health officials and all of that. So basically just trying to follow the latest breaking information and just stay informed. In our house, there's only 2 at home now, so we don't have to go out to get food as often. But I have to say, I am the one doing the shopping, and I get my mask on and I do go. It's not particularly comfortable, and most people are, I think, paying attention. But sometimes there's somebody not following the arrow markers on the aisle, and they're coming the wrong way, and you're having to squeeze over in a narrow grocery aisle. And you just have to have patience and know that it's going to take a lot longer because you have to stop and let people do their thing 6 feet or 9 feet away from you if you can. And then the checkout is, a lot slower too. I don't find in what I've observed that people necessarily get too exasperated with that because, again, I think everybody kind of understands that this is just the way it is now. But I don't know, getting that phone call from my friend last night, and then another person who does some work for us, her sister passed away from it. And there's at least one relative I know, an elderly relative who may have it too. So, it seems like it's sort of creeping a little closer now.
Yeah,
What
I
about you, Matt?
remember when things just really hit the fan. I went up to my wife in the morning. I'm like, listen, serious stuff. Let's show a united front with the kids. Let's take this seriously, and let's just, kind of close our ranks and make sure we're safe. And I probably was a little bit of fearful about the unknown, because this is a movie that we don't know how it's going to end. It can end in so many different ways. Like maybe a little bit scared, but mostly frustrated because of that thing. You don't know what to do. How do you prepare for something when you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow? Maybe a closing question for all of you. It's kind of fun.
Okay.
What is the one thing you want to do the most that you can't do now that you think you'll be able to do once this is all cleared out?
Eventually go to baseball games, Matt. I would love to be able to do that. Now, it's not going to be this season, and I'm not even sure it's going to be the beginning of next season, but I would love to just be able to go out to entertainment venues again, go see an opera, anything like that.
Yeah. For me, I told Karen this, My secret little thing after a hard week is I would go to the King of Prussia Mall to the Graham Lex Cafe because they make the world's best burger. And I sit at the bar with random humanity and talk to people and have a burger and fries and a glass of champagne. And I would love to be able to do that, to see people, to laugh, to joke with the guy behind the bar who knows just how I like my food. And he tells me about his life, and we don't have to be worried.
Oh, that's a nice thought to have. You know, I love my hot yoga studio. I would crave
Yes.
to go there every day. But honestly, I could live without it anymore. I've just been doing it in the basement. I'm okay with that. But I miss just hugging everybody. I miss
Yeah.
seeing people and being close with them. I have one sister who's quarantining with me, but you know, several other I don't get to see, brothers I don't get to have lunch with anymore. And I just want to be able to be close to people again. It's something that I miss and something I worry I'm not quite sure how that'll all come to be when we are back together.
I want to buy a plane ticket. I'll pack my suitcase. I want to get on a plane. I'll take my wife, maybe my kids too. I'm going somewhere else for a week. I'm going to chill out, and then I'm going to come back.
Nice. That sounds fun.
That's it. Yeah.
Can I come?
We'll get there, Matt. We'll get all of these things.
We will. We will.
Gotta keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
Great. Matt, it was such a good idea. Thank you for organizing it, for hosting our meeting.
50% Tam's idea.
Oh, thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. Well, I miss you guys, and I love you all.
And David, I don't miss you. I'm actually getting sick of you because we're.
Yeah, I know, man. It's getting a little old, the boys' club, right?
Oh, we'll break it up. Don't worry.
Karen, Tam, we
I'm
love
just
you.
getting ready.
All
Love
right,
you.
bye, guys.
Mwah.
Love
Bye,
you guys. Bye-bye.